Controversy over the mayor of Houston, who subpoenaed the sermons and other conversations of 5 pastors, has sparked a national debate over legal matters, the separation of church and state, and the freedom of religion guaranteed in our Constitution. And SNN's Melissa Warren sat down today with a Sarasota preacher who found himself right in the middle of that national debate. She joins us now to explain. Melissa.
Well, the story for Faith Baptist Church Pastor David Anderson began 25 years ago, long before those subpoenas were stirring up controversy. Anderson was a pastor in Buffalo, New York, and was served a restraining order by a federal judge that he could not mention abortion in his sermons. He and 24 pastors fought the court order, and won after 2 years. But he says for the most part, they did it with little outside support. He says he didn't want the 5 Houston pastors to fight their battle alone.
Relationships in Houston had deteriorated between the two sides. They weren't really talking anymore. So there wasn't going to be a friendly request and a friendly compliance. This is a power struggle now. We were outsiders with no vested interest other than if these subpoenas stand, it sets a precedent for the rest of the country that a mayor or a governor or anybody can intimidate pastors from preaching what is their conscience.
Anderson says he quoted the Texas Constitution and First Amendment, but he also explained to Parker that pastors' sermons are expressions of their faith and their conversations are in confidence.
The issues of gay rights, gender equality, that's their concern. They have the right to decide whatever they want. That's their right to do. And they can sue each other, all that. But for the state to issue a subpoena, which is a threat of intimidation of fine or imprisonment, for what a pastor says in his phone calls, in his emails, in his sermons, and in his diary, which I still don't understand why that was there. That's a breach of the First Amendment.
Anderson had his chance to explain that when Parker agreed to meet with the pastors on Tuesday.
We had a press conference outside the city hall, and then we had a little prayer meeting. Then we went up to ask for a meeting, and she agreed if we could come back in a few hours. We came back, met, and then the end conclusion was the next day she withdrew the subpoenas.
Parker says Anderson and the other 6 pastors played a major role in that decision.
Was the fact that they had no stake in what goes on down here, that it really wasn't about anything that was happening here. It was that we had inadvertently stepped into something, a national debate that is already going on, and escalated it.
Now, Anderson told me he was pleased with not only the outcome of his trip to Houston, but the example it set, that people can sit down and reasonably discuss an issue without having to battle it in court.
So is this issue over, or does Anderson think it's going to continue?
Well, for Anderson, yes. As he mentioned, his concern was the subpoenas. But as for the case and the city of Houston and its equal rights ordinance, I have a feeling we haven't heard the last of it.
Certainly follow up on this one. Thanks, Melissa.